Okay, so I've got this Calypso, or I'm sorry, it's a Kenmore Elite Calypso wash motion. I believe it's a king size capacity, and I got it with an error from one of my customers. It had the error CE, Charlie Echo, and it would beep once and continue to, and it would not continue with the process. So that error means there's a communication error between the control board and the motor controller. So the first thing they tell you to do is check this cable right here, make sure that you ohm it out. So you take this off, and you ohm each wire, which was good for me. Next thing I would suggest you do is there are two screws. There's a screw right here. I don't know how well you can see because I'm looking into the sun, so I guess pretty good. So there's a screw right there, and there's a screw right there. And you just take these cables off and these cables off, and it will slide this way. It'll slide towards this way, just pop right off. Once you have it in your hand, then I would say inspect each component. Make sure it's not black or hot or have any type of damage to it. Then also flip it over, look underneath at each pin, make sure that each pin is soldered down. There is a enamel coating on there to protect it from water and humidity, which is standard. So what you do is you just get your multimeter. See if I can find mine real quick. Nah, I put it up, which is good. And you always need to put your tools up, something I struggle with. So take your multimeter and just touch the bottom of the pin to something that it's connected to. So underneath you'll see the solder lead will go from, let's just say from this guy, there's actually 3 legs on it, but the capacitor only has 2. So it'll have 2 legs, and then you'll see that one leg is on a trace that goes somewhere else, and the other leg is soldered into a trace that goes somewhere else. And so you just take your multimeter and ohm the 2, and it should be 1 ohm or close to it, which means that it's a closed circuit, which is what you want, and that will tell you that the leg is in fact soldered to the board. My issue was this transformer right here. It had this transformer has 4 legs. One of the legs had I can't think of it, but anyways, a cold solder joint is when it doesn't heat up all the way, and it has connectivity for now, but over time it will work loose, and that's what happened. So I just I used my soldering iron to heat up the enamel coating or the protective coating on the board on the back end of it, and it just peels away, the coating does, and then I just resoldered the leg back to the board, and that went ahead and fixed it. I saw it because there's a plastic piece here, and then the board, and the plastic piece had a black mark on it from where something happened. I've ran a few loads and it seems to be okay. So, but whenever I get into pickles like that, I didn't really know what to do. So I always sit down and pray and ask God for help and guidance. And that's when I saw that black mark on the back, so I thought, there it is. And so praise the Lord, I was able to fix it that easy. It's not always that easy. Then also after 2 loads, I noticed that the water pump was failing, so I went ahead and tipped it up, and I'm not going to do it because I already buttoned it all up, but let's see, what's the best way to do this? Yeah, here we go. So the water pump has a spline on it. It has 2 exits, one for the entrance, one for the exit of the water, and then it has a flat circular disc, which the pump is in, and the motor has a spline similar to that, and the water pump has a receiving spline that fits inside of it. And the problem that I had was that the spline on the water pump side, since it's plastic, had rounded out, and so whenever the motor was spinning, it was just spinning and the water pump wasn't spinning with it. So a solution you can do is, I couldn't buy a new one, they're obsolete, and I couldn't find one, as I just took some of this fabric my wife has from Joann's, pretty thin, and I cut it into 2 strips. And I cut the strips so that the strips were the length of the shaft, as I don't want the fabric running inside of the motor. So let's just say the shaft is as long as from the tip to this green side, and let's just say this is in the motor, and then this, just pretend this whole thing is splined. What I did is I took the strip and I made sure it was long enough. Let's see, this length looks just about right. Yeah, that'll be just right. So it folded over. So it folded over the splines, and it was just enough pressure to allow the, it snugged up the connection. And so I did that 2 ways. I made it so it went this way and this way. I tried to make it go around the shaft all the way. However, it was too much friction and I couldn't get the pump on. So just 2 strips, like a plus sign, worked perfectly. And then I just pushed it on, tuck, 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 just little taps, nothing huge, it's only plastic, remember. And it just slid right on with a little bit of a snug. I ended up having to unbolt the water pump, and the motor just came out from underneath of it. And I used my clamp here, my DeWalt clamp, above the motor and on the pump. The pump is like, remember, it's a flat disc. It's about that thick. I just clamped it together, bloop, just like that, and it squeezed, it pushed the pump the rest of the way onto the shaft. I found that if I didn't do that, the motor kind of, well, not the motor, but the water pump was very difficult to turn. But if I relieved that pressure and it wasn't being pushed inside, if the shaft wasn't pushing on the water pump, because the water pump is bolted to, well, it's not bolted, it has spring clamps, but just pretend that it's bolted right onto the motor, and so it's having pressure. The spinning disc inside is pushing up against the top of the water pump, and it causes friction. And so by squeezing it, it seated the water pump the rest of the way onto the shaft. And so whenever the spring clamps were holding the water pump on, it was easy to turn. So just give that a go. I wish I could show you. I just really don't want to tip it over and unbolt it and everything. So, and I've run a load. It goes great. The motor sounds really nice. It was making some noises and the motor was hot. But now, since it's spinning easier with that water pump not having a bunch of friction from trying to push against itself, I really wish I could explain it a little bit better. But anyways, it's just the way it is. So if you try that, that may save you some money. So I just got to give it a go around with a towel, some water. You can see there's a bunch of stuff on it. So I'll clean it up and put it on the market. So that's an issue you can have with this Kenmore Elite Calypso washing machine, and that's how I fixed it. Till next time, have a blessed day.